Hello fellow Clashers, welcome to another episode of Challenge Winning Decks with KairosTime. We've been seeing a lot of different changes in the meta because of the most recent set of balances. Because of that, I thought it'd be a good idea for me to include 3 decks like I did last time, so you can choose one that'll fit your playstyle. All 3 of these decks are going to be coming from members of Kairos Warriors, my new trophy pushing clan. If you're interested in joining and you're above 3,000 trophies, there's a link to the application form in the description below. Now if you have a challenge winning deck and you want to share that replay, you can join my Kairos Studios clan and you may just be on the next episode. Now you're seeing Gary right here make a great move where he's placing that hog when he knows that his opponent does not have much elixir. His opponent spent too much elixir trying to go for an offense, and placing just a simple 4 elixir hog rider can do a lot of damage to the tower if your opponent doesn't have the elixir to defend. If you're a big fan of the hog rider like I am, this is a great deck to be using right now in the arena, especially in challenges. Gary has won 2 challenges using this deck in the short span of a couple of days. It's a ton of fun to play around with and has a lot of different pushes, as you can see right here, that skeleton army split where he's applying pressure on both sides using that princess to take some damage down to that tower, and also that skeleton army with the ice spirit going down the other lane. Very difficult to stop that push without getting some damage on your tower. That's one reason why this deck is so fun, and now he's cycled back to his hog rider for when he's ready to make another push. Now, when it comes to using the princess, one of the best things you can do when you know that your opponent isn't able to put down their big tank like Skills by Astro isn't right now, is placing your princess in the back of your king's tower. When you're making a push, the princess isn't very helpful when she's locked onto your opponent's tower, and so placing her far back like Gary did in this match allowed her to support the hog rider and take down that tower. Now if you don't have the princess, you can definitely switch her out for either the arrows or the spear goblins. Normally I wouldn't recommend switching her out for the arrows, but right now where we're seeing a lot of skeleton army and even some minion hordes, the arrows are actually a great choice. The Ice Wizard is a really great card for defense, and so if you don't have the Ice Wizard, one card I would actually recommend switching out for is the Cannon. The Cannon is a great defensive card. You can use it especially right now in the arena where there aren't so many giants in the arena, and there are a lot more Hog Rider decks out there. One deck that is becoming more popular is the Lava Hound Lightning deck or other Lava Hound decks, and because of that, I love that this deck has both the Princess and also the Ice Wizard. When they're working together to defend, they're a difficult defense to stop, and that's for any deck. Let's go ahead and move on to this next deck that is made by Silly Bear, who saw this actually on ClashRoyaleArena.com. This is a very strong deck if you were very used to playing the giant poison decks that we saw a lot of. This deck is also a very good option for you. Now it does use the bowler. We've seen a lot of giant bowler deck guides in the past, but this one is really cool because it uses the Mega Minion and the Ice Wizard for a nearly unstoppable defense. Now we've switched out that poison, of course, for the lightning, which is going to help to defend against people that are using a lot of Mega Minions or Ice Wizards, anything like that that are really good at defending right now. Now this deck does have the Elixir Collector. I'm still on the fence about how the Elixir Collector is working after the meta. I think it's more risky to play, but it's also a higher reward if you can keep it safe there, because for that extended period of time you're going to be accruing 8 Elixir total. That's something that you cannot deny. Now, when you are playing this deck, if you're playing against somebody that is using the Minor Cycle or some type of a deck that's really good at clearing the Elixir Collector, I probably would recommend just not placing the Elixir Collector. In this situation, the only real clear we have for the Elixir Collector is Lightning in our opponent's deck, and so placing Elixir Collector is actually beneficial because that still costs 6 Elixir, and you'll get at least 1 Elixir Collector out there. Now that being said, you should keep your Elixir Collector away from the tower that your opponent is most likely going to be targeting, as Silly Bear is going to be doing in this match. When you're playing defense on this deck, probably the best thing you can use is the Ice Wizard. That being said, if your opponent is going for a really big push, the bowler is excellent at stopping all sorts of pushes. With a lot of people using the minions in the minion horde, this deck does have a little bit of difficulty with that, especially if you're playing on your opponent's side. The best thing that you can do is do a well-timed Ice Spirit or Ice Wizard paired up with Zap to try and clear them quickly. Now your ultimate goal should be to try and get your giant placed behind your king's tower, and then get him paired up with some supportive units like the bowler and also the Mega Minion. If you can also include a Ice Wizard back there, then that's going to be a really strong push, and it's going to be very difficult for your opponent to stop that. When you're using this deck, you're going to be facing a lot of people that are going to try to rush the other tower while you're doing that push, just like we're seeing right here. Because we're seeing a lot of cycle decks, this is definitely something you need to be careful about. The reason why this deck does so well is because even just a giant with the bowler behind it is going to be able to take down a tower if it's not stopped, and then you can easily clear a defense using cheaper troops like the Ice Wizard or even the Mega Minion. One thing that I like about this deck is that if you're able to get a tower, then it's very difficult for your opponent to take your tower because of how great our defensive units are in this deck. The Ice Wizard and the Bowler, along with the Ice Spirit, are so good at stopping so many pushes. Let's go ahead and check out this last deck. This is made by Owl City, which is surprisingly one of my favorite bands, actually. That being said, this deck is a lot of fun. It's similar to the first deck that we saw in the video, but rather than using lightning, we're actually using the rocket. I really like the rocket in a Hog Rider deck because it's such a good sneak attack, especially if you can get your opponent's tower below 500 health, make them think that they're going to win, and then use that rocket the last second to just grab yourself a win. Another interesting change in this deck is the fact that it uses the log instead of the zap. If you've got an opponent that's using the mini P.E.K.K.A, a great thing to do is to use that log to try and push that mini P.E.K.K.A out of the way of the Hog Rider so that you can get some extra damage down on your opponent's tower. Now you'll see Owl City using the log and the skeleton army as a defense right now. Because of the changes to the skeleton army, they're really good at defending against even big troops like the Golem. One really good push that you can use in this deck is the Hog Rider and Ice Spirit combination. This is when you have a Hog Rider and an Ice Spirit coming down your lane, it's difficult to choose which card you're going to use to try and stop that Hog Rider, and that makes it difficult for your opponent to prevent damage landing on their tower. Another really good combination is the Hog Rider and Ice Wizard combination. This is great because the Ice Wizard will slow down the tower and also enemy defenses, or even defending troops, and your Hog Rider is going to be able to make it to the tower a lot easier this way. Now, you can choose to either have the Hog Rider take the damage or the Ice Wizard take the damage, depending on what you're wanting. I found that my Hog Rider is more likely to land damage on the opponent's tower if I put my Hog Rider behind my Ice Wizard. That being said, there still is some times when my Ice Wizard I want to keep alive and I want to take a little bit of damage on my Hog Rider. One last thing that I wanted to mention before finishing up this video is that when you're playing against somebody that has a similar deck, it's really a great idea for you to try and build up your defenses, meaning your Ice Wizard and your Princess. If you can do that behind the tower, then your opponent's going to have a much more difficult time making it past them to your defenses, and you'll be able to mount a really strong counter push. Thank you so much to everybody that's watching these videos. I really do appreciate it. If you made it this far, you are truly part of the Kairos family. Thank you so much for your loyalty. I hope that you've learned something. If you are interested in becoming a Kairos Warrior, once again, the application link is in the description below. We're having a ton of fun doing weekly tournaments. It's really a blast. We're learning a ton. The atmosphere is amazing. Also, if you have a challenge-winning replay, go to Kairos Studios and get it posted there. There's a good chance that I'll want you in my next video, especially if you have a unique deck. If you haven't already, like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much. This is KairosTime ticking by, and we will see you in the arena.